Hello, good morning, everybody. Hi there. Good morning. This is probably going to be the new time. No longer at noontime, about 11-ish Eastern Standard Time, uh, um, because I don't want to compete with a couple of places that are happening at the same time on Fridays. This will be my noon time, 5 o'clock p.m. my time, which you know uh, which is about 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, good morning, America. Good afternoon, Europe. It's still January. This is a messing around on a January morning in the United States. It's dark out here because, of course, you were in Eastern Europe. It's 5 o'clock is like darkness in January. So it's like 10 below. It's what was it? What is today's temperature out there? It's saying it's 30 degrees. It's 30 degrees. It's snowing in um, uh, Warsaw right now. So it's kind of strange. 30 degrees, snow, and it's lightly snowing. Well, what is going on? This is probably no one's going to see it because no, this is I should say my new time. The new time is going to be, like I said, on 5 p.m.s on Fridays, and also I'm probably going to be also posting a video at my normal schedule time on the thing. I'm going to be doing the videos. We started the videos already for the new series, Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. We're doing a chapter a day, and I will plan to do Monday through Friday. And I will try to have a regular also session at 5 on either a book show, messing around, or the thing. So it's like, it's that's the new schedule of what we're doing. Um, it's going to be tough, pain in the ass doing Aristotle's Ethics because it's going to be slow. It's going to be a lot of chapters. I just finished the video of the 11th chapter. In fact, it's a special day because it was so short. It was like less than. It was like I think it was over 10 minutes, 12 minutes. It was like, oh my god, this is a short video. It's like, oh my god, because again we're doing book by book, chapter by chapter. So unlike I was doing book by book for the Montesquieu, and when I did this reading of Rousseau, I did a couple chapters because each one chapter is still too short. And then with Schmidt, I would try to do chapter by chapter, but in the big book Dictatorship, I had to break it up. I had to break it up because it would have been hour, 2 hour long. I didn't want to do that, so I divided like the fifth and sixth chapter. I think I broke it up into smaller bits, logical bits, maybe a little too short. I have to admit that my last set of videos were done because I was sick as a dog and promising to get this done before Christmas. So I'm back. So therefore, that's hi everyone. Um, what's new? Well, it's New Year. I have no plans today. I mean, I got my notice about an article got rejected in America. I need to like work on it and resend it, submit it someplace. It's like really tiring. I agreed. I told everyone I've been asked to do an article on Aristotle's political anthropology for 2025. It'll be published in 2025. It'll be due October. So I'm going to be writing that this summer. I'm going to be still doing my small pieces of work on the Frost and Fraud, and I hope to get my chapter on write my chapter, a new chapter, a brand new chapter on preservation, preserving change, and Aristotle. That's my. So I want to get my, and I think I might want to try to get my notes begun for the discussion of the cycle, how last chapter of book 5, and then deal with the question of tyranny, the kingship and tyranny, or what I say, Aristotle's kingship, or Aristotle de monarchia, right, the monarchy. Oh, this is hot hot cocoa today. I should put some alcohol in it, but it's kind of cold out there today. It's 30 degrees out there, Fahrenheit, not Celsius, Fahrenheit. So it's about what? It's about -2, 3. And because it's snowing outside, so it's lousy weather. In Poland, you're getting a media blackout. The massive protests, there were at least 500,000 people in Warsaw. This is what I'm heard being told by some people I know in the police force, and things. The protest was huge, and it was in every city, every major city. There was massive protest. So it was the opposition, now the POs, the Tusk government and his things, and the way the Tusk government arrested some members of CBA who were visiting, who were in the presidential palace when they came to arrest them, really insulting the Polish president. I think there's going to be a direct confrontation between the Tusk government and Duda, and I think the Tusk. I don't put it above the Tusk government of using violence and using repressive means. They've already, because they when they destroyed the Polish media by shutting it down, the way they'd handled it, the heavy-handed way they handled the media, and the way they're heavy-handing the media and they're silencing accounts abroad, Lord, there is a very much attempt to kind of like keep everything quiet. They don't want everything to be heard outside, to get shocked at what's going on, and they're going to use excessive means, excessive violence. I don't know of any account of violence. I didn't go to. I'm not a Polish citizen, and therefore I don't go to protests. I don't do that. I have no right in that sense. In that sense, to do that. But I watch it, and it's more. They're pushing the people to violence. This government has basically. They've undone their goodwill. I think if you did the survey polls right now, they would lose. They would not have won. I think the coalition Third Way party would have, all support for it would have vanished among many people in that sense. And we'll see what happens. I think there's going to be the opposition had big events during the last 2 years, and that they would. But what's happening is the PIS protests now and the Confederacja protests together are so huge, they're going to outdwarf this. And if this continues, it might shut. If they decide to shut the cities down, or there's real protests. Well, again, you see what's happening in France. See what's happening in France and Germany with the farmers, the huge protests there too. So therefore, there's a lot to see going on here. I just didn't. I was teaching Monday, Tuesday. I didn't do anything as I've been kind of trying to recover, trying to get stronger for my health. At university, I signed my document on Tuesday. So I have like 14 working days. I have to the 29th to get an appeal, and my lawyer is handling that. I hope to get that soon done, an appeal into them ASAP. I hope they're getting it done. I'm nervous about this in that sense. I need to have the written appeal in that sense. That is done. I'm not happy about that. My students doing pretty good. I'm happy with my students. I have my class is already filled. In if I look at if I look at my university activity, My class is already filled for next term. I'm doing my research methods again. The research methods, it's funny because still have my second semester of my seminar, so I have it's like, my God, how many students is going to be in there in that sense? Um, um, let's see how many students are going to be into my introduction to government politics. It's already filled. It's filled. It's filled. I'm happy in that. This is, and I suspect some will drop out. This is happening all the time. Um, I have over enrollment in my course on the ratification the Philadelphia Convention and Ratification course I teach regularly. That is it's called Creation of the American Constitution course. It is I have UGEN, so I have 5 students listed on that. I think it's weird. It has the UGEN of it has 4 students. I think there's enrollment of 5, so it's a little open. But given its very specific nature for the course, I didn't think they'd make it an UGEN. So I was really surprised. OGN, Open University Grade thing. My creation course that's for the students, it's for my OSA student, ASC students. It's on 11:30 on Tuesdays. So I'm kind of surprised by this. How many students? It's already 19 students out of 20. This is 19 so 19, but it's failed. So I suspect some will drop, some will go, and other things like this. But I'm kind of happy. I have my course load is filled. I have 5 courses next semester, so I'm kind of like this idea that I'm not doing anything. It's about what the criticism of me was of that, and it's I discovered that it was when I saw the protocol of the thing, I discovered it was the wrong person's. It was. No, I also suspect they didn't transcribe all of it, so I don't know whether the protocol really truly reflects what was said, because what was the criticisms in the review, the written or formal review, had no discussion about it. So therefore, this is a lie. In other words, I'm shocked by this administratively, because you'd have to, if you're going to have a finding of something, you should have discussed it, and it wasn't discussed. There's no record of it, so they're covering it up. I think this is a problematic thing in itself. That this is, I was shocked by. Apparently, my lawyer. They only gave me the transcript of a certain clicks of it. They blacked out certain things, but I think this is going to be ridiculous. They're going to request. I think the lawyer is going to formally request the whole thing to be because this cannot be the correct. Given what is said, what is discussed, only seems to be missing. Well, so therefore, that's me about my life at the university, Warszawa. I'm finishing probably my March. We will be doing I don't know what's going to happen to me at Norwich. I hope something's happening at Norwich. But if March happens like it's supposed to normally happens, I will probably get 1 course at Norwich. Probably maybe international law. Who knows what's going to be done in Norwich? I'm not. I really hope something happens. I need a little course to make some money to pay my U.S. bills. But that's life. Regarding books, I talked to you guys before. I got my Aristotle's Eudaimon Ethics. I should do it. I've been thinking about Eudaimon Ethics in that sense, because this is now an argument, and I think there is a very much case that It's not that we should, and when reading the politics, the book that we should look, the ethics we should look at when we look at the politics is the human ethics in it. And that maybe the common book should be in it. So it's like, I've been thinking about it, and I've saw 2 or 3 articles recently that made the case that the treatment of something of stasis, to understand stasis, that book 5 stasis discussion, and consistency, you need to look at the treatment in book, um, in the Eudemonian ethics, not the Nicomachean ethics. And this is, I see it was in Polis, an article about this, that really opened my eyes in a sense. I should be putting some scholarship requests and essay requests to the university soon, but I've just been kind of lazy in that sense. The other thing that's happening here is I've been looking at Mary Nichols' book on the Aristotle's Ethics that was published by Notre Dame. That's available, and it's been. I'm really not looking at it. I've been having a hard time reading lately, in the sense that my eyes are a little foggy. It's one of the after effects of COVID that I've had. I'm still not totally recovering from it. I'm still a little foggy, hazy. The head is kind of mushy. I'm hoping to get, something happen. So therefore, books. I don't want to, no real books yet. I'm something should have happened today. I probably will get a request today about a book coming out. It'll probably be later. About here's something coming today. Um, I don't know. Should I even get it? Oh yes, I got something. I got a feeling that I was a bad boy. Oh, yes, I'm a bad boy. I was because I. Um, it is really pain in the ass. I really just did a screwed up thing. I was down here when the books came, so it's like, oh my God, no! 2 books came today. Today, I was expecting. I got the Aristotle's Ethics, Nicomachean Ethics, Bywater edition. I have the Bywater someplace. I can't find my Bywater, but I got a new one. I up the new OCT Oxford to kind of prepare me when I'm doing my discussion of things. Even though, to be honest with you, the Bartlett and Collins edition of the Nicomachean Ethics, with all its notes, are very good on the question of the Greek terms. And I don't think it's a translation issue, but it's still good to kind of look at the Greek in that sense. I think the book is questions are going to be the new translations of Plato's letters that by Cornell. And the other thing I think is, oh, it's weird. No, it's okay. No. Um, pain in the ass. Sorry, I'm just having this weird moment. Deleting crap. There. Okay, what is the book? I have to. It's probably going my service. That is Plato's Letters, the political challenge of things, by what's his name? This is was I didn't. I probably came today. I would have gotten if I was at my apartment upstairs. Yeah, the philosophic life. It's the introductions with notes and essay. It's the Plato's Letters. Okay, this is Ariel Heffler thing. And then what is the other one? The other one book that it's coming. Oh, that's not. I don't need that. Oh yeah, the Aristophanes birds. So beep 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 beep. So I apologize that I'm going on and off, on and off. The same situation here, Clifford, but for a different course. Brain fog is probably the worst. I've dealt with it most of my life. But thankfully, I never got COVID. Okay, okay, I understand. This is. Thank you. There. It is kind of a little. It's not. It's the vision. It's a vision thing. It's not brain fog. I think it is the COVID from the eyes in that sense. I have to get. I have to go again, make a doctor visit to get the eye check. I had an eye check. They said that I have to go get for OCT test. They say, well, maybe it's glaucoma. I don't know. I'm getting old, so who knows? Um, so crazy days. So therefore, the two books that came. What else is coming? There's no real books I'm really looking forward to now. I've got a couple things that I should wait for. My friend is saying to me, where I should look at doing some work. My wife sent me some photos. What did she send me? Oh yes. um, she sent me a YouTube picture of the protests I think in Warsaw. But I have a funny picture of me with the, going, with my tongue out. There's a joke about that. I did oh, I have to save that. That's hilarious. That's me being sarcastic. It is me being sarcastic, and it's hilarious. Oh, I apologize. I'm just laughing at this. I had a picture my wife took when I was being a sarcastic asshole. Uh, oh God, that's been crazy. So again, I'm doing my ethics, the ethics guys, you guys. That's what we're doing. Um, I will start doing some writing. I have some writing to do. I think I'll get some. I would have done something to. I really spent this Wednesday and this Thursday kind of psychologically recovering from the bullshit of the reading how colleagues betray. Some people, the young scholars. The young scholars are not worth. These kids are very unrespectful in this sense, and the it's frustrating, and I'm tired. I never thought that it would be this bad, but it is that bad. Um, what I need to do now is get some stuff, you guys. I did a poll. There's two polls out there, so go check the polls on the for your subscriber things, activities. What is it? There's two polls out there. I did it in for. How can I explain it? It's in the. posts. Yes. There's two things. There's two posts. There's what right now we're doing. Okay, we're doing Aristotle. What should we do next? Poll, and should I do a recording of the thing? I have basically the what thing I should do. I have 6 responses and 7 responses. So those of you who are following things and you're following this, you want to take the poll, go check the poll out there. If you're subscribed, you can do it. Please subscribe. That's another thing is subscribe. I need to grow. I need to grow because if I don't grow, I'm not going to be a good boy. What else is there to do, man? It's kind of a real pain in the ass. I need to start preparing, finishing out. The Aristotle one's going to take a long time. We have to go through, my God. In book 2 of the ethics, we have 9 chapters, 3 of 12. So if we just do the math, I'm going to be doing this till probably summer, maybe longer. So it's going to be a long time doing Aristotle in that sense. I'll probably I will look at, probably will go do Machiavelli's discourses next. Maybe do a special thing of on top of this, do the Prince, chapter by chapter in that sense, do it again. Whereas people seem to be interested in it also. That's one of the polls. So this is my plan to do some things. There's not much to talk about. I didn't have any people didn't leave any questions or themes they want me to cover. And this is a new time slot, so therefore people are going to say, well, why aren't you in the old time slot? What happened? Why are you doing it this way? I think this time slot's a little better for me in that sense at 5, because I don't want to compete with some other live things that are happening at 6 p.m. East noon time in the U.S. And I also plan to drop a video on my normal time regular. I'm going to treat the live stream as something extra now in that sense. What to do. There's not much to do in that sense. I was going to talk to some people about something. One of the things I was going to talk about was there's on the academic agent live stream about it. It was November. He was talking to this Malby, I forget his name, Malby, who's a Southerner, who's trying to explain Southern things, Abraham Lincoln, and because he was talking about the kind of traditional conservative Southern things. I think he lives in Louisiana, someplace like in New Orleans, and does kind of like the Southern traditionalism stuff. These websites. What is the name? Yeah, George Bagby, George Bagby site. Who's on here? He's on here. And when I mentioned in the chat to AA that about, what about, I was a student of Mel Bradford. Now, here's my picture, my favorite picture, my good picture, Mel. Mel, it's a rare picture. It's mine. I think it's one of the better pictures. I all the other pictures have him. It was never so, it doesn't click. Mel, M.E. Bradford, in the conservatives, he's a Southern conservative now. Do I consider myself a Southerner? No. So therefore, I was like interesting. When I mentioned this on the AA chat, it was like, oh man, I'd like to listen to you, but I can't get in contact with this Bagby guy, this George Bagby. I don't know. He doesn't have the thing and the contacts. So not just it's there. How do you get in contact with someone like that? I'd like to talk to him because I like some of his videos. Some of his videos I'm not really concerned. He's more a literature guy. He is like my teacher, like Mel, and studying the literature and things like this. Um, I am not. I mean, okay, yes, I study literature and I read literature. I'm interested in it. But I'm a political theorist. I'm foremost a political scientist, a political theorist. Um, uh, uh, and uh, okay, ask me a question. Have you read Indian Migration and Empire, Colonial Genealogy of the Modern State? No, I don't know the book. I don't know. I mean, what Indian as in the American Indians and that. Um, it's a more, the U.S. Indians are a different question because it's a very different structure. It's North American Indians operate. Again, Tocqueville's Democracy in America does a very good, particularly book, chapter 10 of book 2 does an excellent job. The last chapter of book volume 1 of the Democracy in America, part 2, volume chapter 10, where he does about the three races. This is an excellent thing. And the question of what the Indians, we can't talk about the American Indians in one, that the North American Indians, the Northern Indians and the Plain Indians are just simply hunter-gatherers and never had a real agricultural structure. But the Southwest Indians and the Mexican Indians and those in Central America and then later South America, if you look at South America and the mountains, they just did not have the ability to follow the animals the way that so therefore they love the geography of South America, basically in one sense isolated the Indians and forced them into, didn't allow the same hunter-gatherer, the long-term continuation of the hunter-gatherer pattern. Therefore, you had agricultural, you had Indians were forced to necessity. Okay, that's something redacted. Call it as is that book title? I don't know. I have to check it out. Therefore, there is a very much die of how the Indians and how these things developed. In that sense of the way the political development of the Indians in the South America, so that when the Spanish come in, they had an existing agrarian society that it took over and enslaved and structured, where the North American Indians never had that same characteristic, and it was different. This is why the tragedy of the North American Indians, and the tragedy of it is that they were kind of is that a book about migration from British India to Canada? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that book is. He mentions that, I don't know, Indian Migration and Empire. The problem of Indian migration to England and this is changed. I'm not a fan of, I'm not really a Canadian scholar. I'm not Canadian, so I don't really know. I have an English bias. I have an Anglo-Saxon bias in my sense. I would say that the best analysis of the emergence of the state still, I think, is Carl Schmitt's Dictatorship. His treatment in Dictatorship is probably one of the best. And the last 3 chapters of it is you see the genealogy of the emergence of the state in terms of how the state how the institutions of structure of state, a genealogy of how it emerged and created its power. So I think this is still one of the best things. It echoes what Bremen's classic book, Law and Revolution, 2 volumes. When Catholic University Press, the first volume, volume 1, Law and Revolution, but deals with the I think that is the fight with the plenitude of powers thing that Schmitt talks about in the early chapter. The first, I think, maybe not the first chapter, maybe second chapter. So this is Bremen's book on Law and Revolution is, I think, one of the most important books. In mid-1990s, 1985, Harold Bremen. Again, this idea of the question of state. The colonization, this is a problem because the the creation of the Indian state is problematic. This is the problem. What is the Indian state? We had tribal. You had princely rules, princelis and princely states in this sense, but they weren't states. They were just princes. They were not quasi-tribal rulers who ruled like China. There was not political rule. It was hegemonic, tribal. It wasn't mere tribal rule in that sense. This is something I talk about in one of my earlier many years ago, the difference between tribe and empire, right? The political anthropology of tribe versus empire. Tribal rule does not have force. Everyone is homogeneous. So therefore, if you look at the Hindu Kush and the Mongol empire, the Mongol rule, it was an empire. It was, in fact, you can maybe even see the caste system as a product of an empire, imperial rule, merging everything together and having castes. Maybe these people were at one time ethnically different. That there was ethnic tribe. In other words, that the empire created a. I don't really. I'm not been an Indian scholar. I think in India, someone more concerned with the question of India and the Indians in that sense may have a different take. One of the guys I know. Someone I know, Soros. He was at Helsinki. Now he has multiple jobs. He's doing comparative literature and comparative things. He's written about the Hindu thing. My point was that, when I look at both the emergence of state, the concept of state emerges in a product of Western. It is a Western Italian idea. It's Machiavelli coins the term, and it spreads in Europe, and then through colonization, it spreads through colonization. It spreads to India, and you have to understand the Indian structures emerge. The reality of English law. I mean, this is the problem. This is how does English colonialism and the way the East India Company brought with it English institutions and laws, which then brought the Tudor state and the English state into the colonial development and gave them a state, even though they did not have a political culture. So that's the question. They did not have a civil society that could effectively handle the state. And therefore, what happened was that you had the classic problem of neo-patrimonialism, which was that tribal groups would then capture the state. In other words, you didn't have the building of a society. You have to always remember state and society as society. The concept of state is paired with the concept of society. These are synonymous events, and these two things are interconnected, fundamentally interconnected, society and state. So that you have to have a society, that state and society are totally interpenetrable, and they're Siamese twins. They're built and created at the same moment through the creation of the entity. And that if you don't have a society, if you have a state without a political society that inhabits it, that has something in common that's there, but rather you have a state and the institution of a state, and then what you have is this merely tribal people. Now, what will happen is tribal loyalties will grab control. Whatever tribe that's dominant will seize control over the parts of the state, and the ones who control the state will use it for their own private, their tribal interest against that of what is the collective interest of the body politic. Because there's no body politic. In other words, you have the structure of the state, but not the society of a unitary body politic. So that is what is so important about this. You have to understand that in many ways, the Indian societies, the Indian things were basically tribal, princely states, tribal rulers, not necessarily tribal, but princely states, very princely rulers who seized power, because this was a fragmentation of the empire. These successors of the Mongol rule using their relations with the different companies, the European companies who are operating, both India, the Dutch East India Company, the British East India Company, using the various, making agreements with that, using the British East India Company to wage war and to gain power and to get things. And then the company got control over things. And then eventually, this is what happens with India in that sense, right? The creation of the Indian colony. There is a good, interesting argument about the ways colonialization altered constructions of development, of political development. That's a good, interesting argument about India. But then the problem is North America is completely different, okay? The colonial development of North America is completely different. And there's even a difference between how England colonized what would become the United States versus how it governed Canada, okay? It was a conquered, Canada in many ways was a conquered, it was with the conquest of Quebec, okay? With the conquest of the Canadian, the French colonial settlement there. And that in other words, they only, and they ruled it despotically. And versus the islands that they took possession from the French and the Spanish. They never ruled them like, they weren't ruled for British people. Therefore, the colonies and the American 13 colonies, these were settlements of Englishmen. And therefore, there was a different colonial structure. Now, after independence, parts of Canada did import British colony settings and remained loyal to the crown, brought with them certain parliamentary political rights in that sense, and developed instead of being a dominion, not a dominion, but it was the term dominion, right? This is the dominions in the middle, like 1880s, 1890s. To that, the dominions were these colonies that were mostly English settlement with some problem. In France, you had Quebec. But most of the settlement was English, and therefore it was still England. And that's they still ruled. They were not American. That's the whole point in that sense. And the islands again, they were conquered. That's it. They were colonial entities that were transferred. The colonial entity that was a corporate entity that was transferred. The American case was very different. So there is a very, we can say, if you look at colonization and the way the English colonial period versus the Spanish and French, each one of these are kind of fundamentally different. There's the Spanish really fucked up Latin America to a great degree. It brought all the Spanish brought with them the pathologies of Spain, the oligarchic class culture, of particularly the Castilian classes that came to settle and get wealthy, exploit, came into the Americas, and they brought with them their culture. Same thing with the Portuguese. The Portuguese brought with them their this mastery culture, this domination of commerce, and that and expanded slavery. They were much more, in this sense, the Portuguese were a more dominant slave society in Brazil than the Spanish were. The Spanish slavery really didn't integrate that well into the interior lands. You saw some aspects of slavery in Colombia, today's Venezuela. I'd have to read more about that. I'm not really. This is something I'll admit that I'm not that. I was never really interested in this question, but I know that what I understood about the different colonialization and given patterns and certain habits of things. That this is now my colleague always says, "Oh, I'm an Anglo-Saxon." Because I'm Anglo-Saxon, I believe in the English myth, and this is different. And therefore, I argue that when he reads, he totally misunderstands the English. He brings his Spanish. No, he's an Indian. He's a Mexican Indian. He's mostly Indian. Very almost non-existent European stock. He's Indian. Okay. He's educated in that sense. But if you look at what he studied, my colleague Hector, he tries to understand England. He went to school in England and he thinks he understands it, but he always understands it within the context of democratic theory. And I try to explain to him, no, you can't understand it this way. This is a misunderstanding. You have to understand the emergence of it. In other words, that England has to be understood in other words, the previous political structure shapes it. And therefore, you can't have democracy in England without the crown. It will never work. It won't be democracy in that sense. You need the crown. You need the crown as a restraining agent. Otherwise, everything that was England would be lost. It doesn't become England. It ceases being England in that sense. And that what is unique about the English situation of common law, the crown, the structures of that are all there. And if you lose those structures, those unique English institutional structures, then it will become just a mass democracy and it becomes meaningless. And it will become, and there's no other traditions to work on. What are you going to go? We turn back to ancient pre-Roman Celts? It's not possible in that sense. You have to understand that the Norman conquest really fundamentally altered, and the Roman conquest took the English monarchy and centralized it and made it more effective, gave it an advantage over the European counterparts. So, voila, that's it. Well, this is some of my thoughts. I'm responding to the Canadian about migration. I don't really know about that, so I it's like that. So more questions from people. I'm going to look at one of the things I should read. I don't know. On the 17th, I have to give a discussion. I'm giving a thing about woke. I was invited to give a presentation at a conference in Polish conference. I can't speak Polish, so I'll be speaking in English on the impact of woke on Europe, right? And my paper is, I'm calling it the American woke, social justice, madness, political craziness of the left, progressive left, and progressive neoliberals even. I call it the American disease. I think this is true. This is an American disease. It's spread by American academics, American institutions, NGOs, and things like this. And it is infected. And hi there. Oh, yes, Mr. Greenglass, San Francisco, happy birthday. How much could decolonization movement affect? Well, that's the Aristotle Hobbes correlates, and that is a question. There's a very good book. I was just talking about it with Dan Mahoney. Dan Mahoney is writing a book. Dan Mahoney is doing. He's now this semester. My friend Dan Mahoney is at Arizona State University doing a course in Tocqueville for them. But he's also doing a series of articles, American Mind, about colonization and decolonization and the craziness of the woke's attitude of this question. And I mentioned to him the book about against decolonization. What is the book? It's against decolonization. I call it. Yeah, it's Douglas Stokes, Campus Culture War and Decline of the West against the. I mentioned he didn't know about the book, or maybe he seemed not to know about the book. Yeah, it's published by Polity in the UK, so it's a very interesting book. How would you define this? How would you define this? Well, woke. This is a slang term. This is a term that emerged in the media culture, the culture. What is woke? It was a joke about being awakened. It's like what is it? It's an adjective derived from African American vernacular English meaning, alert to racial prejudice and discrimination. Beginning in 2012, this is for the Wikipedia insight aspect of it. Okay, let's do this. The Wikipedia is clearly, it's derived from Anglo African American vernacular English, alert to racial. In 2010, it became accomplished the broader awareness of social inequalities such as racial injustice, sexism, and denial of LGBT. Right? Woke has also been used as shorthand for some ideas of the American left involved in identity politics, such as white privilege and there. So again, this is the best place. I mean, I don't, Wikipedia is not always good for a lot of things, but Wikipedia does give you a good definition of what everyone thinks it is. I'm not going to talk about Gaza because last time I did, I almost got trouble with a lot of people because I think they're going to lose. Israel will win the war, but it will lose the public relation thing. But the Israelis don't care. I think they're going to do it. I think the Saudis don't really care either. But back to woke. The woke is, I think, it's African American time to be awakened. It means to become aware. It's to become aware of the thing. It's kind of 1960s think. I have a good book. It's at school. It's by Paul Hollander, the Hungarian exile who lived in America. Woke is he had a great concept. He wrote books about political pilgrimage, people who go to the communist world, and he was a kind of social critic of the left and the 60s left, the new left, and the 70s and 80s. He escaped Hungary in 56 and was a survivor. He was Jewish Hungarian who survived the Nazis, and then was then punished for being capitalist and communist, was forced to exile in 56, went to England in 57. He spent like 5 years of his life being internal exile before the revolution happened, this 56 revolution. And then he wrote, but as a scholar, he went to get the LSE undergraduate and went to, I think, first Illinois, University of Illinois, and then later, I think, Princeton for his PhD. And he wrote very good books on sociology and the question of this. He's so, looking at the 1960s and the radical left and being very cynical about this, and their kind of their naivety to the Soviets. He coined a term, the adversarial culture, about the 60s things. And I was always a fan of Hollander, so therefore I even then, like in the 80s when I was a student, late 70s and early 80s, and then when I became before I was a grad student, I knew about Hollander's writing in that sense, and I liked his piece that he wrote later about the adversarial culture. And when I was a master's student at Dallas, I kind of really liked Hollander, and the Straussians didn't really like Hollander, so they didn't like these traditional conservatives in that sense. Well, okay, you're saying Castanem did a review of Hollander's book, The Only Super. Yeah, because he did stuff about America in the 1990s, early thousands. He was very critical of European anti-Americanism. But why am I talking about him about woke? Because I think in many ways he diagnosed the disease before it became a disease as our current form. Wokeism is nothing but the grandchildren of the 60s new left. That some of the new left became right wing. You have to remember that one of the greatest member of the new left is David Horowitz. He was part of that, and what cured Horowitz was the Black Panthers and what the Black Panthers did with the murdering of a woman friend of his. In other words, he needed to be mugged by reality, and then he kind of became kind of a this is the neoconservative critique, right? That they were leftists and progressives who got mugged, usually by the blacks, reality, and that therefore they saw what the black thugs really were like. I still love the Mowing of the Flak Flackers by Tom Wolfe's. The story of the Panthers at the stories of the Black Panthers at Leonard Bernstein's party in New York is still a classic description of this. And I think, you know, who does a good job telling the story? It is Douglas Murray. Douglas Murray's account of it, retelling of it recently about it. Were you gonna wing it? It's like that. You know, Doug Murray. I've become a big fan of. I love it. So, you know, this idea of Holland. Holland understood this adversarial culture as this thing. He can even tie this with Yuri Bezimov's idea of the Soviet influence in this. You can, you know, Bezimov's idea of active measures and the way this is done with this, and then you can see this idea of the left, how the left worked, and the pink babies, the pink babies, and that. But and this is something that David Horowitz does a very good job of showing the mentality of the radical the communist left in America, and how they became an engine. The red diaper babies, yeah. Well, they became pink diaper babies, progressive leftist. They went from red to pink, right? So today's in other words, that's the joke. The new left were red diaper babies. The grandchildren of the new left are the pink diaper babies, and they are the woke. We have to understand that these were the children and the millennials. This is the idea that the woke emerges out of the millennial self-awareness and the utter ignorance of what higher education became because of the beginning of the left's complete capture of the humanities and destruction of the humanities in the 80s and 90s. And by the way, the abandonment by the right. The right just said, oh, the universities don't count. They're not going to affect anything if the left gets control of the universities. Because reality will shake these people out of their nonsense. Well, that worked very well, don't we? Because what happened was that the left and the moronic idiots that controlled it produced the graduates with people coming out with the ideas shaped by them, who then become what? The elite universities produce the people who get hired by the big corporations, and because they're so shaped by it, it's ridiculous. I mean, look at Penny Presker, the granddaughter of Penny Pritzker, the billionaire heiress of the Hyatt fortune, and how she was the person who promoted and created Claudine Gay, this white millionaire heiress whose only accomplishment is being born out of rich people there. Did Penny Presker do anything in her life other than be born to wealth? No. And that she was given her position because her family owns all this money and these things. My God, this is what's, you know, there is this moment where the wealthy elite feel so they became brainwashed by hating themselves, and they don't want to give their money. Of course, they're not going to give their money away. They're not going to let their money and their wealth go away. So what they do is they virtue signal and, you know, say the progressive ideas and give money to leftist causes and leftist teachers and promote morons like Claudine Gay. That Claudine Gay is a complete moron, a fraud, a joke. And the only reason why she got anywhere is because the color of her skin and the fact that she had she didn't have that, she had that, okay? Vulgar Bates, vulgar, bad. This is what's so silly about, you know, the Claudine Gay situation. Claudine Gay, you know, she's even plagiarizing from another black woman scholar. I mean, this is, you know, you look at what the Claudine Gay thing was. Why was she promoted? Why was she protected? She's protected because she's a complete idiot who is mouthing the right leftist criteria. Because why? She's a children of even she is a children of the upper elite culture, even though she's an African American. She's an immigrant. She's not a native. She's not a child of slavery. She is an immigrant. Okay, she's a children of immigrants. She's not a. She is a child of the upper middle class who went to elite education and elite institutions. This is why the whole Roland Fryer story and how she destroyed the career of a real African American scholar who actually suffered and grew up in poverty and who pulled himself out. A tremendous story. Who was a real scientist who broke down, he broke his own, he went against liberal dogmas and was punished for it. And she just, Claudine Gay destroyed. Now, the nice white liberal woman, white savior, Prinny Presker. I mean, as long as the Penny Preskers of the world and the idiots and the wealthy heiresses and these, I want to say the C word, because that's what they are. Not conservative, the other nasty C word, for what they are, and that says that they're useless human beings. It brings me out the French. I'm starting to like the French Revolution. What the French Revolution did to the, I'm really almost liking what the French Revolution did to the elites, French elites. Chop, chop, chop. Okay. The Prinny Preskler, Jenny, I can't get Penny. I can't say her name. It's driving me crazy. That she is such vacuous idiot who's accomplished nothing but simply live off the fact that her ancestors were, the Hyatt chain, who accomplished something. This is the same thing. I have some more sympathy for the idiot Paris Hilton, because she, at one level she took her wealth and then turned it into social media thing, but still she's a vacuous moron. Okay, would I mind when the revolution? Would I cry if the masses, took her to the La Madame Guillotine? No. This is the problem. The more the very wealthy elite have behaved in the last decade, exactly. I started appreciating Soros for the same reasons. Exactly. Well, no, the France and fascists. That's a more different Vichy France. That's a different thing. Vichy was an attempt to preserve things. It was not necessarily fascist. It was just also not. It was also colonial in a way, and that it rested on the Algerian, the French colonial. Much of the support for that was the French Algiers that were lost, and that when de Gaulle became president. So that's this is. That's true, but that's a more big problem. Vichy was not something to look forward to. This is why it's funny about reading Kozhev's book here about this, trying to justify Vichy in a lot of ways. Again, this is the Hitler-Stalin problem, the problem of the mastery, the Hegelian dialectic. That's always drives us. But back for Koilitz's point about Sorel. Yes, but there is something. That's why Schmidt's interesting, and it's Schmidt who points out Sorel, some of the very important aspect in Sorel, that is dictatorship, and also the problem of the Marxist dictatorship theory. And I think, again, in the book on his chapter on Marxist dictatorship in the parliamentary book, but also his that's in the Marxist, that's the parliamentary book where he does Sorel in that sense. I don't know. I'm at my hour moment. I should shut up soon. But Prinny Pritzker and that whole story at the elites, woke. The woke are, that's that line from Tocqueville, but also Hannah Arendt, quoting Machiavelli, that what happens, the worst thing these elites can happen is become despised. If they're despised, once they're despised, they lose power. This is the danger of the elite, is that, okay, if you become despised, if you're despised but are powerless, you will be exterminated. This is what Hannah Arendt said. This is what happened. It's only by making the Jews despised, the Nazis were able to justify extermination. In other words, you had to make them despised. And that's the whole point in the book, in Hannah Arendt's discussion about the anti-Semitism. Remember the origin of totalitarianism, 3 criteria. It's one of them was anti-Semitism, the other one is colonial imperialism, and the third one is totalitarianism. Right. This is the 3 parts of her origin of totalitarianism, and in fact, her origins of totalitarianism is purely Tocquevillian and Machiavellian in that sense. This is not, and that's why her analysis is so understandable. And then she takes the whole Vogelinian idea of ideology and connects it to this. She uses Vogelin's theory of race and ideology of this, and also the idea of an ideology imposing on the shaping of consciousness and how this distorts political reality. Again, that's very much Vogelin's argument in his political religion books, in the 1930s, before his New Science of Politics. So you see, and that's why I think in many ways Vogelin played a bigger role in Hannah Arendt. Now she admits about the race books, the race chapters about that, but I think the political religion book somehow, I think there is this kind of moment where people like, I think the political religion book may have influenced someone like Walter Benjamin. I can't prove it, but I think that might have affected someone like Walter Benjamin in his idea of ideology that he was doing at that time, and is kind of turning against the Marxists in that sense. Schmitt, it was his turn, his interest in the Schmitt political theology, but that political theology turn thing probably let him be open to what the political religion argument and Vogelin's idea. And I think this influenced Hannah Arendt in that sense, the ideology chapter. But again, we have to understand this is the revolution, the French Revolution. That this is, Tocqueville talks about this, the French Revolution. Why did the terror happen? It's because of this problem. And I think this is what we have to be aware of. This is the danger of what woke does. The woke are ideological zealots. And the article, the thing I'm going to talk about the American disease, is that this is basically, yes, it's post-structuralist. Marxism, post-structuralism, these are European things. But when they come to America, you add the moralism of the secular Puritans, the liberals, the progressive liberals. In other words, you have to remember that the liberal progressives of the 19th century, the late 19th century and early 20th century, are the great descendants of the Puritans. In other words, this is liberal 19th century, the turn of the century, 20th century progressive liberalism is secularized Puritanism. Okay. You then add Marxist theories of class and power to that. You add the class, you add the Marxism, but do it through no longer the lens of class, but now race and gender and things like that. In other words, you look at the economic view of Marx is thrown. That's the mixture of what we call the Frankfurt School. The Frankfurt School didn't like the economics of Marx. Didn't think they were following Gramsci's lead, but they saw that this was a power dynamic, and the power structure of class and culture was going to be more powerful of a formula than economics. And then things like identity and class was going to be class was not sufficient enough. So that when all of a sudden issues like race and again, this is the Soviets did this. The Soviets understood that America was going to be dominated by the questions. So therefore, what it is these specific American problems of slavery and race, post Jim Crow, divorced from that. Um, I think this is you add this secular puritanism with this new ideology. This is the basis of what we consider this things like critical, uh, uh, yeah, critical legal theory, critical race theory. This was all 1970s, 1980s originally. Then it got radicalized, and then what happened was you had generations who knew not other critiques. So by the 1990s, early 2000s, you have no one being exposed to any critical and understanding of this at all. So therefore, what happens is the American institutions, the educational institutions, become just basically a feeding frenzy of insanity, ideological insanity. And actually the Cold War, American victory of the Cold War led what? It led the metastasization of these mental illness through American social of Fulbright and the institutions of these institutions. That once that all of a sudden that we, and then, you take Soros. Soros himself is not a progressive. He's just a wealthy, he's a Jew-hating Jew who helped the Nazis hunt down other Jews and knows that, he's a guilty motherfucker who made his wealth by stealing the wealth of his co-religionists at the hands of this, and then got his whole life basically raising money through the manipulation of money currency, playing everyone else off in Europe. Remember, he was the one who broke the pound, and that and helped. That made his bill. He made him rich in that sense, breaking the pound. And then he played the domestic markets and made wealth. But then, in order to hide, this is the problem. The neoliberal wealthy guys. They made his fortune. They make their fortune, and then what they do is they cover their fortune with virtue signaling to the leftists. They in other words, they want to live comfort. They want to maintain the comfort of their wealth. So they're like in many ways the all these trust fund bastards and sons of bitches of the wealthy, of the new wealth of the 80s and 90s. How they're doing is that they know that they really don't deserve that. They know they don't deserve their wealth. They're not creators of wealth. They're the inheritors of those who made the wealth, and therefore they feel guilty about that. Their own guilt, and their own sense of their utter incompetence and worthlessness leads them to virtue signal by, showing how wonderful they are to by helping and supporting the left. And this is the way this kind of thing operates. What will happen is if the woke left does get control, it won't be them. That's the problem. Is the young millennials are morons to a great degree. It's going to, and even the Antifa types are the thugs are really Nazis. You push the ones who are the violent ones, they will be the thugs, but they're not smart enough. So it's going to be someone who is very cunning, diabolical. In other words, if you go read what, what Leo Strauss in his introduction to Spinoza book says about, quoting Trotsky to explain why Lenin was the winner of the revolution, using that analogy to explain why Hitler was inevitable. Okay, this is that Lenin and Hitler are the same thing. Well, let's say this right out. Lenin and Hitler are the same thing. It's the ruthless. Someone who is ruthless and zealous will win. And that's going to be the effective ideological left in that sense. This is why I don't think they will be that way. I think you'll get I don't think this will work out the way the left thinks it will. I think the left is going to get shocked by a populist reaction that is going to be in France. In Europe, it's going to be bloodbath of all immense proportions. And in America, I don't know how it's going to hand out. I think Trump might be a savior in that sense, prevented from getting They don't understand. This is the same thing in Poland. I think if they destroy PIS, they'll get something worse than PIS, and more vindictive. Trump is not, even the vindictive Trump is still going to be more humane than what comes after Trump if he is destroyed again. If a repeat of 2020 happens and shenanigans are used for the elections, and they try to destroy him or they try to remove him by extra legal or quasi legal means, I think the backlash towards this, what will come out of this will be a monster that will want the left's blood. So no, it's not going to be Trump. Trump's too nice. In fact, I argue, Trump's a pumpy, and he's a softie in that sense. So that's always the problem with this. Well, okay, I'm 15 minutes over my thing. I ranted, I raved. No, I disagree. I think it will be a post-Trump madness. It will happen. It will happen if Trump is destroyed and Trump that. The reaction out of it will be amazing. I think it will. I think the Republican Party does what I think they're trying to do with a kind of Haley support. Okay, I'll do your birthday. I'll go a little longer. Haley, I think they want to have Haley as either VP, or if they can't destroy him, they'll want to push. That will never happen. That will never happen. I think that the deep state and Haley are in bed with each other. I think Styx is right here in that sense. I think, so I'm not a fan of Ramaswamy. I can't ever say Ramaswamy. I like him in many ways, but I don't trust him. He looks like a talker. He looks like a con man. I understand he did a business, he's done these things, and he's accomplished things. But the same reason, I would like to see him do something. Maybe, if Trump wins, it would be great to win. Go for a government post to, clean out something, accomplish something like this, and maybe run for governor of California and try to save California. I think this is I think that we have to build from below. We just can't build from above. Need more people to run for city council, city things. We just need a president that will castrate the courts and the federal system from destroying the local governments and local things. That's that, and I don't know what to say about that. Okay, Mr. Green Glass, my voice is going. If you had any South America, if you had to live in any South American country, no, I would never live in South America. Sorry, I can't stand Spanish. Not Spanish culture is. I like Tex-Mex food, but no, I just can't deal with the Spanish culture, the Spanish, the machismo. I'm sorry, I'm too English in this regard. I just can't stand. I can't really tolerate the Spanish violence and the machismo and the violence that is inherent in Spanish. That this is the violence of Latin America is an intrinsic trait of the Castilians who shaped it. Okay, this is my hypothesis. I think who shaped Latin America? It was the Castilians that the Spanish sent off to rape, loot, the conquistadors, who mostly Castilians in that sense. They were the Castilians were the most vicious, nasty people. This is what Machiavelli talks about in his about how Ramaco Diorca, the story of Ramaco Diorca and the Prince, and how Cesare uses him to get control and pacify the Romalia, and then chops his head off just to keep everyone. Everyone was so angry about what he did and was hated him for it. So what Cesare does is he leaves him on the piazza cut in two, and everyone was stupefied and satisfied. And you understand why he was a cruel and expeditious. You understand he's Castilian, and this is the Castilians in a sense. And this is why Latin America is fucked to the great degree, because this is this is Tocqueville's great point, the point of departure in chapter 2 of volume 1, part 1 of Democracy in America. Well, the Castilians were rapacious, violent. It was the poverty of what Spanish culture in that sense. Go look at the history of the Spanish and what it was. It was that actually, who to read about this? Go read Spirit of the Laws. Go watch my series on Spirit of the Laws, particularly in the last part 6, where I go over all the long-winded, very long videos about the discussion of how the Frankish kings, Frankish law shaped Western European, which not only German, France, but also Spain and North Italy. The Vandals, and the not the Franks, but the Visigoths, and how they fundamentally worked with Roman law in the Roman political culture to shape that in a certain way. Who are the most cruel of the slavers? The Spaniards, Portuguese, the Muslims. They're the worst. The Muslims would, the Muslims' answer to the slave was what? Chop, chop, castrate, baby. Genocide, real genocide. In Europe, again, you have to remember that the Muslims were on Spain, the coast of Spain. If it wasn't for the Reconquista by Ferdinand and the conquest of Ferdinand to kick them off, they would have been there too. It would have spread to the white population. What they did to a great degree, and they wouldn't have castrated them to the degree, but they didn't want the blacks. There is a racial genocide in slavery. It's not with the Anglo-Americans and the Europeans, or even the Spanish. It is simply just a kind of the Muslim world, and the worst of the colonizers were the fucking Belgians. Look at the French were the French and the Belgians in Africa were just monstrous. They're no better than the French. You want to see pathologies in Africa? Go look at French colonies. I mean, look. This is what let's talk about this. Where is the hellhole of what we call the current problems in Africa? It is that French area and Belgian area. Yes, Congo, but then look at Sudan. Look at that whole area from there. French influence and French to this very day. The French are resent. This is what the belts, that belt there, and that's all the current problems, the Sierra Leone and places like that to this very day. There's resentment of the French because the French were just heavy-handed bastards and didn't handle colonialization right. The French were disasters at colonialization, as the Spanish were in that sense. The Spanish were the French. I mean, it's a hard question to say who's worse, the French, the Spanish, or the damn Portuguese. I challenge you to do a doodle, pipi la poo. No, I like French, but the problem with we have to understand that to say French is to reveal the fact that they're really Germans. What is French? It's Frank, and what are Franks? Germans. There's no such thing. The real French would be Gauls. So therefore, modern France is shaped by the Franks, the Germans. A German tribal culture in the monarchy shapes the identity of modern France to a great degree. Yes, the Vive la Revolution talks about the southern things, but that's the north-south dispute of France in that fundamental sense. And by the way, the South is Latin. No, this is the interesting that it's not fascistic. The northern part is not fascistic. It's the southern part. The Latin part is the more fascistic part. And if you understand it, that is also the place where the Vandals are. If you go read what Montesquieu says about the southern part of France, about the shaping of the Vandals and the southern Spain and Vandal area. It's like a very interesting discussion of how that works and how we to understand it in that sense. But I have to go back to Corliss's point. It's been like, he is Sorrel. Well, I'm now gonna I'll wrap up. I'm kind of in a brain dead moment. Happy birthday, Mr. Greenglass. I hope you will have a good one and have a good thing. I'm going to stop because I'm tired. My brain is kind of fussed. I did 6 videos today. I recorded 6 videos, but the shorter ones. I need to really just start doing something. I need people to start giving me topics so I can prepare my Wednesdays things. I need to do some more topics about things. Okay, it's been good. I hope you guys have a good day. Please like the video. If you have not liked it, like it. Hit the like button, please. Those of you who see this later after it, please hit the like button. Let's get the likes up here. If you're not subscribed, please. And those of you who are new here, go watch some of my other videos. Today I talked about the Montesquieu stuff, Montesquieu's Spirit of the Laws series, which I've dealt before with it in that sense. I read the whole Spirit of the Laws. So go check it out, subscribe, and have a good day. And we'll see. You can go watch the videos on Aristotle popping up every time or at normal time. Take care. Bye-bye. And have a good day and a good weekend tomorrow. Party hardy. Hey.